Hey, and welcome back to another video. In this video, I want to discuss the most critical skill that we have to learn for our relationships, for our intimate relationships, for marriage, and for all relationships across the board. The most critical skill. And when I ask people what's the most important thing when it comes to a relationship, most people typically say to me it's communication. Communication is the thing that we have to learn. And that's not entirely the truth. And in this video, we're going to find out what really is the truth, what really is the most critical skill for our relationships. If you like this video, please like it and please subscribe to the channel to get notifications on all future upcoming videos. In this video, I'm going to focus mainly on intimate relationships, on marriage, because it's a question that I get asked the whole time as part of the work that I do with relationships. And that is what makes a great relationship, what makes a great intimate relationship, what makes a great marriage. And I've got a whole course on it, a concept that I founded called the intention principle, which is an incredibly powerful concept for all relationships. And you can buy the book below and you can see the online course below. But I want to bring out what is the most important skill, what is the most important theme, what is the most important concept for our relationships. And in order to share what that is, I need to build a little bit of background noise before we get there. So I always say to couples or people who are thinking going into an intimate relationship, when you go into an intimate relationship, there is an engine room that controls the quality of the relationship. And in a previous video, I discussed the three types of marriages, the scale, divorce marriage, partnership marriage, and just the real deal. And it's the engine room that we're going to talk about in a minute that really controls whereabout we are on that scale. And that engine room is what we have to protect and also what we have to look to build. So what is this engine room that I'm talking about? Well, I believe, and I believe this quite strongly, that whenever we go into an intimate relationship, it's based upon two core beliefs that bring out lots of feelings, because our beliefs create our feelings. And in that engine room sits these two core beliefs. And no one would go into an intimate relationship, no one for sure would get married if they did not feel and believe these two core beliefs. So what are these two core beliefs that I refer to a lot in the online course and in the book? And they are, number one, the person that you're getting intimate with or you're deciding to marry, you believe, number one, that they're a good person. You would never get into a relationship, definitely not an intimate relationship, with someone that you did not believe they were a good person. So you need to have that core belief. Now, obviously, you don't want to force yourself to have it. They either are a good person based upon the value system that you have, or they're not. That is the first core belief. You would never get married. You would never consider marrying someone who you did not believe and feel they are a good person. But that's not enough. There's a second core belief that we must have, or we must feel, if we're going to think about getting into an intimate relationship with someone or getting married, and we have to protect it through the relationship and build it up. And that second core belief is that we can go on a journey together that's going to be pleasurable. Because I'm sure you can agree, there are plenty of nice people in your life, but you're not going to have a pleasurable journey with them, right? Just because they're a nice person doesn't mean that we should consider them as a potential match to spend the rest of our lives with, or a significant part of our lives with. If you don't believe that you can have a pleasurable journey, a life journey with them, then it doesn't matter how nice they are. It's just not something that you're going to entertain in your mind. So those are the two core beliefs, that you are a good person, but not only that, we can also have a pleasurable journey together, a pleasurable life journey together. And anyone who goes into an intimate relationship, who's serious about an intimate relationship, I'm not just talking about just being intimate for the sake of being intimate, I'm talking about being intimate with the idea that let's see if we can spend our lives together, and considering getting married, they've got to have those two core beliefs. I don't care what's going on. You will never consider marrying someone if you do not have those two core beliefs. Now, I don't care if you're stone drunk. In your drunkenness and your state of being drunk, you're still going to believe that you have those two core beliefs. So those two core beliefs are what propel someone to consider marrying someone. And those are the two core beliefs. If you don't have them, that's going to put someone off from marrying someone. And all that changes in a relationship, once people get married, is the quality of those two core beliefs. I have couples coming in to see me daily, and I ask them, let's sum it up. Where is the trouble? Which belief is struggling with? And typically, most couples will say to me, it's typically in that second core belief. They still believe sometimes that their spouse or partner is a good person, but the journey is just not pleasurable. There's just not a pleasurable experience to be with them, and they feel all alone because they're not connected and they're not going on that life journey together that I talk about in that video about the three types of marriages that exist. Now, sometimes it happens to be that they also have that belief of you're not a good person is also damaged as well. But that is what it boils down to. And it doesn't matter if it's both of those beliefs or just one of those beliefs. And if it's one of those beliefs, typically it would be the second core belief that the journey is not going to be pleasurable together, or it can't be pleasurable together. It's the intention principle that really allows us to rebuild those two core beliefs, not in a positive, fluffy way, but just getting down to the true narrative about the other person and working through stuff. So we've got to protect these two core beliefs that are very strong when we decide to get married to someone or we decide to get into an intimate relationship with someone. Those are the two core beliefs that bring out these feelings, these positive feelings that draw us towards them. But unfortunately, when a relationship goes a little bit sour, it's these two core beliefs that get damaged or get bruised that repel us from that person. Which leaves us with a question, what controls those two core beliefs? What damages those two core beliefs? And how can we protect and build up and strengthen those two core beliefs? What is that deciding thing? Because the reality is, there's a physical space between two people. Just obviously, naturally, we're not physically bound together. That'd be pretty much of a nightmare if we were stuck together physically and had to go through life like that. But there is a physical space between two people. And what brings people together is that kind of emotional feeling, that emotional attachment towards them. And what decides how close we are in that physical space between two people sits that engine room, those two core beliefs. And the stronger those two core beliefs are, the closer they feel. That gap becomes smaller. And the weaker those two core beliefs, the more bruised and damaged those two core beliefs are, then the bigger the space, the wider the space between two people, which therefore leads them down to partnership marriage or divorce marriage. So let's go back to that question. What determines the quality of those two core beliefs? What determines how strong they are or how weak they are, and how can we build up their strength? And it comes down to one skill, one theme that applies across the board for all relationships. And when I typically ask people, what's the most important thing in your relationship, people will say to me, communication, that dreaded C word. And it's just not true. You don't go into an intimate relationship to communicate. Communication is just a tool. It's not a feeling, right? It's just something that you do in order to get something. So communication is not why we get married. It is not the most important thing, and you're going to see what I mean in a minute. And some people throw out the word trust, and again, yes, of course, the more trust there is, the closer the gap. But I would say trust is an outcome of the most important thing. And some people say respect, and I agree with you. Respect is also an incredible feeling that you need to have, and there needs to be respect in the relationship. But again, that is just an outcome of the one critical theme and skill that is going to determine the quality of our relationship, because it's going to determine those two core beliefs. So what is that one thing? It's one word: understanding. It is understanding that draws people together, and it's a lack of understanding that repels two people apart. When you're having a good day and you want to share it with someone, you share it with someone who you feel who understands you and will understand why that good day is a good day. And when you're having a difficult day, you also share it with people. But you would never share it with someone who, number one, doesn't understand you, but number two, doesn't understand why that challenge is a difficult challenge for you. We are drawn to people who understand us. And if you go back to the two core beliefs, you're a good person, you would struggle to feel that someone's a good person if you didn't understand why they do what they do and their value system. But also, what draws people apart in that journey is they simply don't understand each other. They're no longer understanding each other, and there's things that get in the way, which I'm going to discuss in another video. What makes a journey so hard? What breaks that understanding in the journey? I call it the two dynamics, and I discussed it on the course, but I'm also going to discuss it in a separate video. That breaks up the feeling of understanding. And couples say this to me the whole time. Whenever they're having struggles, it's typically the same kind of statement. I'm fighting to be understood, and I'm fighting to try and understand them as well. I'm struggling to understand them, and I just don't feel they understand me anymore. And that is what creates the distance, because the lack of understanding in a relationship is what destroys those two core beliefs. And once those two core beliefs go, the feelings go. And it's so important to know this, because a lot of people, they start focusing on, what can I do physically to make the relationship better? What can I buy them? What can I say to them? How can I listen more? But at the end of the day, if you don't have the feelings there, if you don't have that engine room there, you're fighting against these feelings that you have towards the other person, which is probably going to be negative, and it's not sustainable. Not sustainable. Changing your behavior in a relationship when that engine room is damaged is really not the way forward. Now, if that engine room is good and it's healthy and it's protected and it's and it's in a good space and a good state, then changing some of our behaviors will have a positive impact. But if those two core beliefs are damaged, trying to get yourself to do positive things for your spouse, trying to show appreciation and affection, you're not going to do it. And this is a funny thing, because couples, I always say to couples, what needs to be physically done? And every couple will say to me, I got to focus on appreciation, more affection, more time, more compliments. They know what they should do. It's insulting to suggest that couples don't know what to do to create a positive vibe between them. My question is, why don't they do it? And the answer is because they don't feel like doing it. And we don't do things, even though we know we should do it, if we don't feel that it's worthwhile doing it. And if you've got two core beliefs that do not say you're a good person, this journey is worthwhile, why would you do all those things that take time and effort? So unless we change the feelings that exist between two people, they're not going to do what they know they should do. And that is why this system is so powerful, because it doesn't focus on getting people to do what they know they should do. It's getting in touch with the association that they have between each other. For example, if you hate pizza and I put a piece of pizza in front of you, you're not going to have it because your association to that pizza is negative. But if I put a hot chocolate in front of you and you love hot chocolate, you're gonna grab it because your association to that is positive. And that's why people struggle with diets, because they focus, and I talk about this a lot in my Mind Diet course on this YouTube channel, they focus on the strategy, what they got to do, what have they got to eat, what have they got to do to exercise, but they've got a negative association to exercising, and they've got a really positive association to unhealthy food. They're fighting this tug of war that's not sustainable, and they're going to give up. There's nothing wrong with them, but unless they change their association to the unhealthy food, that they don't want to have it, and they want to eat the healthy food, it's never going to work because we're driven by our feelings, and we have to use our intellect to kind of mold and shape the type of feelings that we want to have. So, and that's why this is so powerful, because when we start understanding that engine room and we start understanding that it's understanding that draws us together. Yes, communication is a way to build understanding, but it's not the ultimate key. Then we're going to be in a better space to change the relationship. And just going back to that point of communication, communication isn't the key, because I know people who can communicate all day long, but they don't build understanding. They break the intention principle. So even though they're communicating to their blue in the face, they're actually doing more damage because they're breaking this one core idea, the intention principle, and that is breaking the understanding. And that is all the intention principle looks to do. It looks to build and protect these two core beliefs, which is really nothing more than a sum of the feeling of I understand you and I feel understood. And we are drawn to people. We are drawn to people where that feeling of understanding is. Whenever I deal with a family unit or a relationship, my first, one of the questions I always ask is on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being very little and 10 being a lot, where is the level of understanding that exists within that relationship? And when they're struggling, nearly every single time they'll say 4 out of 10. I'm like, well, no wonder you're not feeling close. No wonder you're not communicating in a healthy way, because the understanding isn't there. We're drawn to people to understand us, and we're repelled by people who do not understand us. We want to be around people who we can connect to, and we can only connect to people who have that level of understanding between us. And when you understand someone and you feel understood, that builds out the trust, that builds out the love, because you're going to find it very hard to love someone if you don't understand them, and you're going to find it very hard to trust someone if you don't understand the way that they work, and you're going to find it very hard to be intimate with someone if you don't understand them. It's the understanding that brings out that energy that therefore brings out the intimacy. So it's understanding that sits at the foundation of every relationship, and trust and respect and all those other emotions that we must have in the relationship are an outcome of this one critical theme of understanding. So let's ask ourselves a question. If we're in an intimate relationship now, if we're married, we're living with someone, what are two core beliefs like? I believe you're a good person, and I believe we can have a really pleasurable life journey together. How strong are those two core beliefs? How strong were they when we first entered that relationship? But how strong are they now? How strong are they really now? Which one are we struggling with the most? And typically a lot of couples will struggle with the second one, not always with the first one, but very much every single time if they're struggling, it's always going to be the second one. The question is if the first one is also struggling. But it's good to take note. It's good to get a sense of clarity. Where are we holding in our relationship? What's gone on with those two core beliefs? And where is the understanding lost? How much do I feel understood by the other person, and how much do I understand the other person? Let's get that clarity. And as I said before, that's what the intention principle does. It looks to build that understanding, not in a fluffy, positive way, but in a real practical and truthful way. It's understanding. So if you're trying to fix your relationship and you're doing a lot of surface level behaviors to try and make things better, I would suggest if your two core beliefs are damaged in any way, you're really fighting a tug of war because there's an association within you towards your spouse that's going to be negative. You're going to be forcing yourself to do those nice things, and it's not going to come across genuine as well. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. Of course, it'd be good to do it. It's not going to be any harm, but that's not going to be the key. The key is going to be in how you feel towards the person that you are with. That is the real key, our feelings, because our feelings govern the actions that we take, and we have to understand those feelings, where those feelings come from. Have we broken the intention principle, which is an absolute game changer when it comes to relationships? So to sum up, communication is not why we get married. We don't get married to communicate, and you can communicate till you're blue in the face and achieve nothing. In fact, you can do a lot of damage. The key feeling is understanding. We are drawn to people who understand us, and the more understanding that exists in a relationship, the greater those two core beliefs are. You're a good person, and we can have a pleasurable life journey together. And we have to build that understanding up if we're going to get the relationship that we truly want and that we truly desire.